We have failed. Let's discuss it. Let's go over it right here, right now. We are going to talk about failure. We're going to talk about failure, everybody's favorite topic. Favorite topic. Let's talk about the concept of failure, beginning first and foremost. And I want to share with you, if you want to check out my book on perfectionism, go into my channel homepage, click on the link to Amazon, and you can purchase The Beautiful Flaw, and it's going to help you heal your perfectionistic tendencies. So, here's what you want to understand about the concept of failure. The concept of failure is literally self created, it is self created perception, it hinders growth, and it hinders persistence, and it is connected to our little narratives and stories that we've had since we were kids. The brain has a special part. It's called the habenula. Sounds like some guacamole from a Mexican restaurant, but it's habenula. The habenula is playing a key role because what it does is it shuts down your effort when failure is actually perceived. When you start to perceive a mistake coming, you just instantly shut down. Oh, I'm not going to try. Why bother? Why even continue? Why is that? Because to that person, there might be some emotional consequences that are connected to shame, self anger, avoidance. They may avoid trying based on the perception, the way they look in front of other people. They may amplify that failure narrative based on what other people think. And this can lead itself in connection to approval and unrealistic fantasy like standards as well. So we have to view failure as a false end because it limits potential. We have to create a critical need for reframing. We look at failure as a false end, meaning it's like, all right, this is it. It's over. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. But there's a critical need for us to reframe that. Reframe means to change the perception that's wrapped around how we look at failure. So, the very key takeaways for this particular segment, and I'm going to do a summary of each segment. The very first key point number one, failure is a perception, not a reality. It is someone else's standard and maybe not yours. Two, there's neurological and emotional impacts that drive us to the cycle of giving up. Three, it's a false sense of something being finite or complete or finished. And guess what? It could just be the fear of success or the fear of failure. Number four, reprogramming your failure mindset is vital for personal growth because the people who do have depression have an overactive habanella part of the brain, right? Which we talked about, the habanella, right? Let's go ahead and go on to the next segment. The next segment is failure stems from early conditioning, where the unmet need in childhood creates this critical inner voice. Basically, as an adult, your critical voice came from the parent or authority that criticized you the most as a child. And you've adopted that mindset at some point. So there's a fear of success, which is disguised as a fear of failure. And success on a larger scale can feel very overwhelming. So we have to have that emotional flexibility to break free from that failure story, that failure narrative. So, what are the key takeaways for this particular section? Early experiences shape our relationship to failure, and the way you heal perfectionism is to heal your relationship with making mistakes and failures, because we have the tendency to connect it to our identity, which is connected to our self concept of who we are. There is emotional avoidance, which reinforces the idea of failure. It's like, why try? Why bother? I'm only going to fail anyway, which is really based on the perception of how they're perceived by other people. And learning to process emotions can disrupt the failure cycle, when you learn to process these feelings and sit with them rather than pushing them away. We could reframe success as experimentation. Hey, let me experiment. And if I get a little bit of data, information, that information can move me towards success. I call them win sites. It's an insight where you win, and what you win is some wisdom that moves you forward and allows you to get to the next level. And that's what it's all about. It's about reframing those successes as a process. If you become process driven rather than outcome driven, you will succeed, because people are either in the future, in the past, but they're not in the process of what they're actually doing in the moment. So, yes, the point of power is in the present. Let's talk about the next segment. The next segment is that we have to reframe failure. This is a transformative approach. So, we are going to adapt a mindset from project management. I'm a project manager, an iterative mindset. So every attempt that you make is an opportunity for a win site, a piece of data, information that's going to move you forward. It's not a definitive failure, it's a learning nugget to move you to the next stepping stone. Think of it as multiple stepping stones, and each one is a piece of information that you pick up on each stone. And that information that you take moves you to the next stone. It's like a video game. It's a funny way of putting it. So when you shift towards gaining the data and experimenting and having an iteration, you always win, because you're moving forward and you're gathering bite-sized bits of info to move you towards success. So language does matter when you are talking to yourself. The what if phrase can be healthy when you're going to discover or explore or get curious about something, but where what if happens to be very damaging as a piece of self-talk is, what if I fail? What if they all see me? What if I laugh? What if they laugh at me? What if I trip? What if I fall? What if I fail? What if I completely lose everything? And again, this is future thinking. This is not present tense doing. You fall into that claptrap of future thinking, rather than the point of power is to be in the present and be working in the now. Or you're in the past thinking about that mistake when you were 8 years old and the narrative that was wrapped around it. And, well, what if those people in the future, they see me like they did see me when I was 8 years old? And you create this correlation between distant past and distant future, rather than focusing on doing the work in the moment, in the process of. That is the power. So for this segment here is that we want practical strategies to run experiments, fail fast, quickly, no time for emotional content, get right down to celebrating your attempt and look at the data that's present so you can build on that. That's first off. So the key takeaway from this segment is focus on the process of learning and iteration. Use framed language. Watch out for those what if statements. You want to reduce that emotional burden of failure from the future thinking or past thinking and be present tense. You got to watch out, because that iterative thinking can be overwhelming and it can take you towards self-sabotage. But if you get excited, it can take you towards success. So guess what? Organizations and parents can foster resilience by rewarding your bold steps and bold experiments with that. So that's important. Understand that your self-talk can be adopted by the one person who criticized you the most as a child. In other words, your inner self-talk as an adult could have come from when your dialogue of criticism came from a parent as a child, and you've adopted that as your mindset today. It's like you're taking your thoughts when you were a kid and the way you were talked to as a child and the way you were criticized as a child, and you've adopted it into the the adult-based mindset. And that has become your new frame of life as an adult. So the segment that we're going to talk about next is there's a long-term impact of having a mindset that's iterative, meaning you can have iterations. If you're doing a YouTube video and you want it to come out perfect, well, why don't you try experimenting? Why don't you try experimenting, see what comes out from it? You could always delete the video and make an iteration of that video and re-release it again. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Some people may not like that, but that's okay. Now, there are high stakes situations. Like you could be in a situation where you have to speak publicly, and you could do small scale, safe presentations. Like if you have to speak publicly, you could just get 3 people and practice that presentation in front of 3 people or 2 people or 1 person. Granted, you might be performing in front of 1,000, but you could literally deal with 3 people, and you could have a new person enter the room every few minutes to increase the number. So you start working through those feelings, because anxiety needs to be worked through. We cannot assume that all anxiety is bad anxiety. Some anxiousness needs to actually be worked through. Very important. We can embrace curiosity, embrace playfulness, use that what if words towards what if I try this? What if I experiment with that? And bring yourself to an experimentation aspect. Very important. This can improve your performance and your creativity, because you're growing when you start to experiment. Over time, this mindset is going to disrupt those traditional standards and limitations that you've been given. So here are the takeaways for this section: is small, consistent experiments lead to long-term success. Play and experimentation, they enhance the learning and can help you in a high-stake environment like public speaking in front of 1,000 people. And the iterative approach leads to mastery. It's not about perfection and having a perfect outcome. It's about self-mastery. If you want to get away of using perfection or perfect as a measurement for human beings, because of the fact that human beings are in a constant state of flux, a constant state of growth. It's all about self-mastery and having that self-compassion. Use the word self-mastery rather than, oh, I have to be perfect. No, I have to master this. I have to master this. Very important. Now, enjoy the process and redefine what it means to actually succeed. Now, in closing, when you reframe failure, it's not just a coping mechanism, it's a powerful tool for transformation. And we shift our perspective, we start to see every outcome as a learning opportunity. Every experiment has a win sight. Instead of an insight, it's a win sight, because that piece of data, that information, it moves you from one stepping stone to another. It's like going from one stepping stone to another, like Super Mario, and you pick up certain pieces of value along the way, much like coins would, right? Super Mario grabbed coins, didn't he? So it's all about that resilience. We unlock resilience when we start to understand that every experience has data inside of it. And we learn to be objective rather than looking at that information and beating ourselves up saying, why are we not perfect? So guess what? Failure is important. If Thomas Edison was an overthinker, you would not have a light bulb in your bedroom today. He had to look at every failure as a piece of data, a win site that he used and he gathered, and it created a stepping stone. And he knew that that information got him closer and closer until the light bulb was discovered.